It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Pay the price they're asking, boys, always pay the tyrant's fee. Never give up the struggle, boys, fight for the liberty tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Stand for the rights of man, boys, stand against all tyranny. Hang the lance of freedom, boys, high on the liberty tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. It will grow as we grow, boys, it will be as strong as we. We must cling to our faith, boys, faith in the liberty tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty.
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle for you. Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
Join Mark and Don for Weapons Wednesday, where you'll learn how to use everything from your bare hands to your average AR-15.
The 12-gauge autoloader,
Sure.
the 45 long slide
Yep.
with laser sighting,
You betcha.
the Uzi 9mm,
Yes, sir.
phased plasma rifle in a 40-watt range.
What are you, crazy?
Wrong.
Okay. They'll talk about that too. So whatever question you have about whatever weapon you have, call Mark and Don on Weapons Wednesday. And remember, your mind is your first best weapon.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we'd hoped you to always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun, permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm, so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm, and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn, and your daughters visit doctors so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores, and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear and be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand. Defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now, as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Kernke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, southwest, north, northeast, and south. Ladies and gentlemen, you were listening to us on Libertytreeradio.4mg.com. We're also on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and Liberty Tree Radio on YouTube, along with UltraNet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. And good afternoon to all of our friends out there in Lower 49, the great state of Jefferson and Conus, the outlying two states, the territories, and the clock. It is 5:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's Communications Tuesday. It is the 11th of August. It is the 12th year of open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K. 2020 Old Earth calendar, 2020 year of the Dance of Swords, and there ain't no doubt, because they're just not going to let go. They just aren't going to let go. Okay, so we understand what's going to happen, and we need to act accordingly. Let's not be panicked. In fact, sing as you slay, rise up and shine. It is time for you to do the work you all know you need to do. I'm going to have some fun here real quick. You know, it's pretty bad when your top ammunition that you can show in your inventory is blank ammunition, okay? However, something happened. This is interesting. If you go over to classicfirearms.com, they didn't get the 9mm, 9x18 ball ammunition they got before, but they did get some more silly billet. It is 9x18, 8-star crimped, blank ammunition, Czech manufactured military, production blank, 240 rounds, in other words, 10 24-count boxes. Remember how the other 9mm came in that way? Well, in this case, it's blank, and it's the same price, $9.90 a box, for 240 rounds, and that's 0.041 cents per round, which is giveaway, but that's blank ammo, guys. Sorry about that. However, I would point out that Preview Partisan must have had some stuff waiting on the docks because they didn't just drop this into the country. And there is some PPU ammo showing up in every location at once, which means something was released by an importer. And right now over at Classic Firearms, if you have a 7mm Mauser, beautiful rifle, flat shooter, give me one, I'll make it sing. I wouldn't even think twice about it. I don't care what model it is. I don't care if it's pre-1900. I've shot so many of those, I can't even count how many rounds I put through them, be they 8mm, 7mm, 7.65, or whatever, including some 11mm Mauser, okay? Big boy. Anyway, this is PPU, metric rifle, 7mm Mauser, 139 grain, soft point, $13.24 a box, which means they're keeping the price where it normally would be for this ammo. They have not gone up in price with this. That's a very good price if you have a 7mm Mauser, and it's a good load, too. So if you're listening and you have a 7mm over at Classic Firearms, for however long it lasts, they just got some PPU ammo in. It is not the only PPU ammo that came in the process. There are some other loads on the other pages, I guess you go. Shot shell and centerfire pistol and rifle are kind of mixed in right now. But there is, of course, the usual outrageously priced more than $1 a round ammunition if you want to spend that, but personally I wouldn't unless we get to the point where you still need ammo, where it's almost kickoff, and you can go pick the stuff up, then maybe. Now, otherwise...
Break. Both streams are down.
We got a caller. Who do we have?
Both streams are down. It's John, Colorado. Both streams are down. My radio stream and Sam Club, both either one's connected to anything.
Okay, let's check to see.
They're not full.
And Ed's on standby there, so he can give us a confirm, or he's checking right now. Thank you for the heads up on that.
I'll leave you to it. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3. You got me, Mark?
We got you.
Sorry, I'm just throwing it up. Stream was not down, but it flipped back to music. The other two regular streams, I just flipped them back over. So, not down. If you're not getting in, I don't know what the problem is on your end. But the streams were up. It was just still playing music for some reason.
Again, the bad guys are not happy with this program. We actually are getting feedback from a great distance away right now. And a lot of people are asking specific questions. I get questions now when I'm out and about that are coming off of the program, which is cool. I mean, some people were listening, others, I'm afraid to listen. Right now they're scared to death that they're going to get caught flat-footed. Everybody I talk to is arming up, gunning up, equipping up, buying all of the technology they can, and the most common thing I have is, where can I get, fill in the blank, okay, be it, equipment, our body armor, which I kind of have also pointed out, it's kind of like the ammo. All the reasonably priced body armor is already down the road and on somebody's carcass. That's finished, okay? You're looking now at regular prices. There are a few deals. Whatever deals you can make them. If you see like one of the companies like Botash, putting something out there, there's a special, take advantage of that. But as far as I can see, again, we're in that middle phase where everything's thin, and as it hits, everybody looks for it, finds it, and carries it away as quick as they can, which is not a problem. That means it's going out of the warehouse, and that's the best blasted thing that could happen, because we don't know when the enemy is going to try to do a Beirut on America. The Israelis will do a Beirut on America. I will repeat, the Israelis will do a Beirut on America. The Israelis will be the ones doing it. Period. Everything else, ignore all the bullshit, BS. Ignore all of that. When the Israelis do a Beirut on America, be ready for it. Because those rotten pigs are the ones behind pretty much all the problems we got, from the burning in the streets all the way right on down the list. And that character we have in the White House is so far up their bunghole, if they tightened up their sphincter, his head would pop up into their bowels. So just be ready for whatever it is that they have happening. And everybody can see it. I have nobody. In fact, I really was fun. We had some young people yesterday that were really, they absorbed and they took notes. They actually, anything you wrote down, gave them reading assignments, the whole 9 yards, and they were like, I believe that because I had this thing here and then I was listening, I figured this, but, that makes more sense. The cool thing is it gives them whatever ammunition you can, especially reading assignments. And then when they, later on when you see them, they're like, oh my God, you're right. I never thought about that until you showed me this, and I read the author, and she was right, or he was right, which is really kind of fun, because it's like, yeah, see, there are a whole bunch of people out there. Nobody, it's not like we were ignorant. In fact, everybody was listening to the liars in the controlled press and government who told you not to listen to the patriot movement and the militia, who have been 100% absolutely right. That's kind of fun, okay? So, again, we're going to have to sing as we slay. We better be happy about the battle we're joining in, because we let it go this far, and now you're going to have to, kill them back when they try to come out and play their game, and whatever they try to drop, whatever they try to drive, whatever they try to fly. Well, you know what? It's all man-made. It'll die just like anything else. So will they. So everybody just get squared away, stay focused, stay on course, do not stop, keep doing what you're doing. I got 1 or 2 things done today, but not what I wanted. I will say that myself, because every day there's always, oh man, you do something else forces you to sidetrack. But I accomplished things. I'm happy. So, we're getting something done. In this case, for the program, it's Communications Tuesday, but ammunition right now is a priority. They do have some 30-06 over there that's Wolf. It is 70 cents a round, but that's $12.99 a box, and that's typically where that stuff is. It's non-corrosive FMJ ball. I'm sure it is not Boxer Prime, but you never know. You always don't throw the cases away anyway. We'll reload it one way or another. The big thing is, what I have a kind of chuckle about is 7.63 Mauser pistol, and also the 7.62 Parabellum is now cheaper than 40 caliber or 9mm. It's like, oh, I knew that would happen. So if you have any of those older pistols laying around, like the old broom handle or the 30 caliber Luger, I'd be buying the ammo right now, because it used to be that would be about twice the price of anything else, but right now, if you go over to Classic, you can go over to Centerfire, you can go over to Take Your Flavor, companies, they all have a little bit of the stuff there. So if you do have one of those guns or a quantity of them in collection, you're maybe turning to those, that toggle Luger or that broom handle Mauser to accomplish the mission. Not only that, it'd be nice to have fresh ammo, and this stuff is fresh. Boxer Prime, non-corrosive, heat annealed, brass case. Come on, it's as good it's better than typically the ammo that was even cranked out back in the day when they were making the guns. So you've got a very high-quality round to spit down range, and it'll punch through some body armor. So that's kind of cool, too. Anyway, Classic isn't the only one that got some PPU ammo in, so you have to search, because if you're looking for any of the other unique calibers, I would look today, right now. If you're doing maybe a side search while you're listening to the program, it would be a good idea. Because if it's there and it's something that you need, buy it. If it's come in, buy it. Clear the shelf off. Why? We want them to send more. You have to clear it off. Keep clearing it off. They're going to have to scrape up some more. And or they'll build more. And that will make us all happy. We will have more. More is better. So anyway, it is Communications Tuesday, and there are a couple of places. Well, it looks like we got some distress problems going on with a couple of the lumber companies. Lowe's. You want to go check Lowe's out right now and pay attention to their markdowns or closeout or clearances on FRS radios. I would also go to Home Depot for the same reason, but if they are demanding that you wear a face mask or a dog muzzle, don't do business with them. Menards has a couple that are on sale. All of them are in the same boat. The sales are nothing near where they should be. People are being very, very, very coy and selective in what it is they purchase, and they're not really even jumping at any specials, because nobody has the 2 pennies to rub together to do much more than what they absolutely need to. But right now, because of this, older inventory or cycled out inventory, the computer is still running everything, the brainless artificial intelligence. And so rather than the inventory staying on the shelf, they're punching it out for half price or 1/3 the price. This is a good thing. We like that the artificial intelligence is an idiot. The product didn't go bad while it was in the bubble wrap inside the controlled climate store. It's about the same temperature in the winter as it is in the summer. So if it sat there for a whole quarter, or maybe half a year would be, or even a year, what difference would it make? Well, it wouldn't. So what's comical is that the artificial intelligence has decided that these are stale potato chips. That's a good thing. Now, go watch and look for the stale potato chips. This can be LED lighting, this can be conventional lighting, fluorescent lighting, this can be, in this case, also FRS radios. And I have noticed that a couple of the Grundig radios made it to the shelf on the on these hardware stores. Now, you may not find them everywhere, but Grundig is a good radio, even though they're half made in China, half made in Japan, some parts made in America, and of course supposed to be German, by the way. But Grundig does good work. They actually know what they're building, and they maintain reasonable quality control. I think their name is there, but their quality's down a bit with the newest models. I'll live with that. When you can get a radio for under $20 at shortwave and will cover all frequencies and AM, FM, and weather channel, that is a good radio to have. And if you get it for under $20, that means you can afford to have more than one, so you can put one at the retreat already there. And then you can have one in your backpack if you want to, already there. And you can even have one at home, already there. Or put one in every vehicle, which doesn't hurt either. We've talked about this before. These are a separate, purely a listening system. They are a receiver. They are not a transceiver. They are not a transmitter. These are receivers. They do shortwave, full spectrum. They do AM, they do FM, and they do weather channel, and sometimes will even cover CB. Now, that happens, and you got to watch and pay attention to the models. But if you do get that, that's pretty cool. You may not be able to talk, but you are able to hear when some battle chatter is going on. And again, the price is pretty much the same. So again, Lowe's, Home Depot, Maynard's, Menards. If you don't go to Menards anymore, I understand it. They've been anal retentive about the whole mask thing. I haven't been in the stores since they've done this, and we've saved money not spending it on them. So, because I am more likely to grab stuff that's, on sale than Nancy is. She's going to be very penny counting, and me, I'm looking at like, oh yeah, I could use 10 of those. If I don't use them now, I'll be using them in the future, and if they're that cheap, and it's like, well, instead we don't buy that, so, oh well. So I think we've probably cut down to 1/3 what we've been spending there. Of course, somebody probably bought it, so they don't miss me anyway. I don't worry about that. But there's a lot of the people I talk to, they don't go to Maynard's either. So I understand if you're even saying that and you're here in Michigan or in Ohio while I'm talking, or Indiana, well, I don't go to Maynard's because they were real jackasses. Yep, they were and are, and they should be treated that way, like the red-headed stepchild that they are, okay? Now, still, if you can get something cheap from them, send a scout in. Send somebody in. One person goes in only for what specifically you can use from the site, and otherwise don't pass and darken their door with your evil freedom ways. How's that sound? There we go.
I don't need to pad their wallets either, Dad.
Oh, right, exactly. And again,
in fact, I was at the restore today and went in without the mask on, and they started giving me trouble. So I'm not going back to that one anytime soon. They overprice their stuff anyway. For a resale shop, it really shouldn't be that expensive.
Yeah. And again, it's like, well, you don't need me. And it's like, well, a lot of other people have taken the same attitude. A lot of people really, it's interesting. A lot of people are doing the shopping thing because it's habit. I mean, it really is. It's like they could organize better and make just one sortie out, but they want to make a show of themselves, so to speak. And of course, you have the chic dog muzzles now with all the different colors or black. And in black, of course, as I kind of joked with the girls yesterday, I said, wow, the Muslims must be really happy. They got your face covered. They're forcing you to wear a black one. I mean, you pick a black one out because you think it looks cool. But, can you do this? Now, remember, when you do that, you can lift your muzzle, and you can, and they all chuckled because it's like, yeah. And again, here's the point. One of the places, talking to the girls there, the owner has absolutely no use for what's going on. And in fact, I know the Democrats in Michigan have made enemies of vast numbers of people now. not only have they pissed off the owners, but remember, what about all the employees who really, really, really just wanted to work and couldn't and can't? Well, they're all pissed too, and they're all listening now. So legions, people, you recruit legions. The people just got burned. They got burned big time. Their fingers are scorched. They got little white flesh on the end, almost third-degree burn there. Now's the time to explain to them that both the hospitals and the medical people and the government all agreed to lie and to misdirect. And in fact, with some of the stuff that they did, they tried to get you killed. But I always do that in a cheerful manner. Do it cheerfully. Yeah, so the lawyers, forgive me, the doctors, lawyers, same difference. So the doctors all knew they were lying when they told you to go inside, and you should have been outside with a virus. Yeah. And you know that they said that, you should cover your face and keep rebreathing, debris from your body, right? Yeah. So in other words, they're trying to get you killed. Oh. See, you can be smiley and take it right to the cliff, and then when you take it to the cliff, it's like, so they're trying to mass murder you. In fact, they're trying for mass murder in this country. And of course, here's what's interesting. Nobody is going to take the shot. Well, I shouldn't say that. They have enough people on Prozac and Halcyon and Ritalin and, Zoloft that, some people are going to walk in there like the zombies that they are. I mean, the government dope will get them some customers, but pretty much it's interesting that a lot of the people, especially young people, are all of the, idea that there's something strange and weird about what they're doing here, and they don't trust the machine at all. We need to garner that. We need to develop that. You need to promote that. You need to teach. Drop stuff anywhere you can. People will read. Ignore the, remember, physical copies of things. Hand them stuff or give them book assignments. I do this to all of you the same way. I remind you again, Machiavelli, The Prince. If you want to really have your eyes opened, it's a simple book. I mean, it's small. It was a pocket book. It was designed for management. It used to be mandatory in the colleges. I doubt that it is now. But Machiavelli, The Prince, and don't get one with some asshat, reinterpreting and rewriting everything. You want a direct interpretation / a direct translation, very simple. It was not very thick and big to begin with, and you don't need to have somebody telling you or trying to explain to you in the author's form who is probably a leftist who's desperately trying to angle you back away from looking at what it is that, you don't need to think about that, but this is what he said. And you don't need to think about that, but this is what he said. And don't really embrace or take this to, to heart. But, this is what he said. In other words, you just need to remember, if you're going to read it, read the leftist version, and that way you won't get anything from it. Because the turd that's the interpreter, its job, its job is to lie to you. Right? It's like the government. Its job is to lie to you. So we need to be squared away on that. Now, oh, by the way, another one, Atlas Shrugged. Right now, especially, Atlas Shrugged. Get everybody to read it you can. And remind them, yes, it's a Russian tome. It's like reading the Bible, only the Bible's shorter. That's what's kind of cute. It's like, oh, no, it's really like 3 books, okay? But we really, 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 really need that, and we need to get that in play, and we need people to kind of get up to speed real quick on that, okay? And somebody's asking again, okay, hold on. The ammunition I was talking about, the 7mm PPU ammunition, if it's still there, and if so far it says it's in stock, I didn't refresh, is over at Classic Firearms. It's like the 6th or 7th scroll down. When you're going down, 6th or 7th box. It's PPU PP3003 metric rifle 7mm Mauser, 139 grain, soft point, 20 round per box, $13.24. $13.24. They have not increased the price on that. That is actually a very good price, no matter what period. So if you've got a 7mm Mauser, example, maybe you've got a FN 49 and 7mm Mauser, you should be buying all of this stuff you can. That 7mm Mauser FN-49 is a very fine rifle. It's a 10-shot fixed magazine. I don't care. I'll tell you what, that rifle, at this point in time, if you were looking at the last cycle of main battle rifles, we always talk about this. It'd be the M14, the FNFAL, the G3 HK91, right? And then the AR-10 would be in there too, which is kind of an overlap rifle. But before that, it used to be, if you were looking at surplus semi-automatic guns, and there were no M1As. By the way, the M1A only came around because, somebody finally got motivated and built some semi-auto receivers, and one of those was old Fedord, and if it hadn't been for Fedord and a few others, along with Springfield Armory, finally catching on, you wouldn't have seen the M14 for quite some time. Maybe, I don't know, they would have probably been bothered with the Chinese making it. But before that, it was the FN-49. The Hakim would be another rifle in that category. The M1 Garand, right? And that was pretty much it for semi-automatic rifles if you wanted something in an MBR, main battle rifle caliber. There were no SVDs I will take that back. There were Tokarev rifles before the SVD. That same period as the Garand and the FN-49. We used to run into a quantity of the Tokarev rifles in whichever variant, but the problem was ammunition. 7.62 by 54R wasn't really laying around, guys. So those FN-49s were an excellent rifle to turn to, and there were a lot of them around. They used to be anywhere from $60 to $90 a piece to $110 for the really pristine ones. 7mm didn't command a very big price, and were the last ones to go up in price, simply because, again, the ammunition. 7mm has been an orphan for a long time. It has been not in any major production anywhere. The last surplus came out of South America. It was round ball, round nose, pencil bullet ammunition from back in the very early 1900s. And beyond that, there wasn't really a whole lot of anything in surplus in 7mm anywhere. And nobody was building fresh batches that weren't full rifle price. In fact, usually they were twice the price of, say, any standard rifle cartridge. 30-30 was $7 a box. 7mm was $15 a box. Okay, just to give you a heads up on that. Anyway, right now, 7mm, classic firearms, right available. Go ahead, we got a caller. Who do we have?
This is Mike from Ohio. I just wanted to let you know if you're willing to go into Walmart, they now have 12-gauge double-aught buck for the first time in years, at least in my area, and it's $20 for a box of 25, so it's twice the price that it was a few years ago, but it's there if you want it.
So at least you have the inventory. You know what? Yeah. You're in Ohio. Oh, you know what? Thank you very much. I found this yesterday. I started searching, and guys, if you didn't scribble through the page, you'd lose it in the shuffle. www.vanceoutdoors.com. Do you have any of them near you?
I think there's one down around Columbus. Yeah.
Yes, there is, and Columbus has 380 Auto. That store, the www.vanceoutdoors.com. It is store pickup only, by the way. I was looking for ordering, but I happened to run into this. Now, here's what's interesting. If you run 380 Auto and you do it with the www.vanceoutdoors.com, the two head stores do not have the inventory. But for whatever reason, that store south of Columbus has at least 3 or 4 flavors of 380 Auto in stock. However, they'll only allow you to buy 1 box of each flavor at a time so that the customers could fairly get something. So if you do go there, bring a few friends. Hey, Mark. But they do have Ball 380 in Winchester, and it's actually not jacked in price either, guys. Amazingly enough, that was the other thing about this, is that they've kept the price at standard pre-crisis mode. So the prices are good, and that is www.vanceoutdoors.com. And we get another caller. Who do we have?
Hey, this is Carl in Virginia. I just want to say, this morning I found some 380 ammo at my hometown flea market. So don't forget these places. Stop in and see what they have at the local flea markets, yard sales, swap meets, and all that. You might find something interesting. I was actually really impressed with this guy's inventory. He had 50 BMG, 6.5 Creedmoor, and of course the common caliber, 7.62 by 39, 223, and all that good stuff. So don't forget your flea markets.
Yeah, and again, flea markets, trade shows. We've got a couple of sites around Michigan here in the middle of the state that are like weekend big yard sales. And everybody comes in from, all points of the compass. You never know who's going to be in there setting up. I highly recommend you keep an eye out for that. In fact, on the west side of the state, south of Big Rapids, I believe this next weekend coming up, they're going to have, it's a whole park. It's located south of Big Rapids off of 31. And just for our Michiganders, just a good point. So, but guys, these happen all over the country. So if you're in Virginia or Ohio, definitely kind of do a peruse. One of the places to check for those is go over to Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. They're not the only place. You can go to other locations and, and do a search. But amazingly enough, people have been pretty religious about posting the sale groups like that. And some of the people bringing stuff in, they're not going to go crazy on the price. Again, I don't know what the reputation of this store is, but VanceOutdoors.com, VanceOutdoors.com, VANCE Outdoors.com. And it's the store south of, it's in-store pickup only, so if it's halfway across the state, it may not be worth it. But if you're close, and it's on the south side of Columbus, you will notice that they list the different stores, and it's out of inventory, but the very last one at the bottom listed is the Columbus store, and the Columbus store has inventory. In fact, almost in every other caliber I noticed, too, kind of like what you were just saying, Carl. Again, watch the odd man out locations now, because they're like those little oases, or the zombies ran over there, but they walked right past this little corridor here, and it's like, well. Yeah, and then one or two of us turn and go, wait, what's down this hallway? And guess what we found? So it's worthwhile. Again, somebody's asking, what about other locations? I don't know. I'll tell you who I would check today about PPU ammo. If some stuff has come in, Classic doesn't get as much of the PPU as AIM Surplus. So do check today aimsurplus.com, aimsurplus.com, AIM, A-I-M, AIM Surplus. Be patient and go through their page. But if you're, look for what you need, and it'll shorten your time on the page. Let's put it that way. Because I know some of the pages are frustrating. They show a picture, it doesn't show that it's out of stock. I noticed Classic is now putting the green flags up there even for the ammo. They didn't always do that, but they are, so it says in stock, in stock, in stock, instead of out of stock, out of stock, out of stock, which is cool. So also they got inventory. Another thing, I wouldn't recommend going out and buying a carbine now unless you've got a friend that's got one that'll sell you for a really good price. But there is still carbine ammo. Of all the semi-automatic rifles, 7.62 by 39. Ball ammo under 30 or about 30 cents a round is still hanging in there. It's not much of it, but there's some around. And the stuff that's replacing it, if you'll notice, is now jacked to 55 cents a round. So as the next wave comes in, the people that are selling it from overseas have realized the market is a seller's market, and this is going to ripple through the whole system. So as long as you see any 7.62 by 39 for under 30 cents, I highly recommend you buy more, especially if you do need it. But when it's coming up to replacement time, 55 cents appears to be the next jack. So be ready for that one. However, the other semi-automatic rifle caliber that there is sufficient quantity of, and not only that, but some really good packaging, is Korean manufactured surplus 30 caliber M1 carbine, 110 grain FMJ ball ammunition, 1,080 rounds per can, and it's in the can, in the bandoliers. So it is ready to, issue out at 0.352 cents per round. Now, a few weeks ago or a month ago, that price would be medium because, I can get 223 for 27, 25, 21 cents a round. Yeah, but that's not happening right now, is it? So now the biggest problem is with this ammo, with a .30 carbine, is finding something that's reasonably priced that isn't, you're going to have to hawk your firstborn male child for to get. And therein lies the rub. Finding a field grade shooter M1 carbine is, most of them, I'll be quite honest, most of them seeing that everybody's paying $900 for are basically shooter grade carbines. I'm sorry guys, I've looked at them. They're the standard carbine grade that we've had for years, and no, they shouldn't be $900 a piece. They shouldn't be $1,200, but the world is changing. It's the year 2020, and World War II was way back there, way back there in the taillights, dude. So far back, it's around the corner and over on the other hill, I think. It really is. That's, like 80 years now. So guess what? The stuff is, it's not, it's funny. It's antique, but it's not. I'd pick up any World War I weapon and use it in a heartbeat. And World War II arms, fully functional, and in fact, duplicates of the guns, or many of the guns, are still in service and being used in wars and are shooting at people right now as we speak doing this program. So don't say they're obsolete. There's no such word. That word with firearms is a bit of a joke. There are different grades of and performance levels of weapons, but there is no such thing as obsolete. So just a heads up on that one. And in carbine, plenty of them, millions. We have millions around. So I would also say this: if you do have a carbine, the Korean stuff. The Koreans were using the carbine, and in fact, I've still seen pictures of security personnel over in Korea, South Korea, using the carbine most recently, and certainly it's in the Philippines. So one way or another, Arms Corps and the Koreans and a few others are making carbine ammo for all the different factions out there who have been cranking out a lot of, combat, so to speak. You remember we had those, that series of incidents down in the Philippines where my favorite picture, 70 guys trying to hide behind one Subaru. Yeah, 70 guys, like a taper, because they're all really close to the Subaru, which, by the way, isn't going to slow down too many heavy rounds. And it tapered out like a teardrop in reverse, where one or two guys are still trying to get behind all the other guys because, bullets can't go but through so many people. But there were carbines in there. There were AR-15s, carbines mixed in down the road, and M14s. And all the AR-15 operators were operating behind the M14 operators. You guys got to pay attention to some of the imagery here. If somebody had an M14 with some reach and penetration, there'd be 3, 4, or 5 AR-15 guys kind of tagging along or moving around and shuffling behind the 14 operator, because he could reach and do some damage where he wanted to, and their weapons weren't quite that capable. And they were using M16A2s and M4s, looked like. So, again, just a little heads up, pay attention to what's actually going on in the field with the people that are actually pulling triggers, and might help you to make some decisions. But the carbine works, and it is, this is ball ammo, it's military ammunition, so there's nothing to write home about, but it is a worthwhile investment. Certainly you're going to need more if you have the carbine. The frothing crazy towns are not going to go away, so we're not going to get out of this fight. The Looney Tunes and the Kosher Mafia and all the Fruit Loops that have gone into positions of authority/power, they're planning on a Red Terror offensive. That is obviously in the works. In fact, even the representation of the Israelis bombing in whatever form and blowing up the complex, destroying downtown Beirut, or at least the coastal area of Beirut, is visions of things to come you better be ready for. See what they did there? That when the Israelis, Beirut, an American city, be ready. When the Israelis, Beirut, an American city, like they did Beirut, be ready. That's coming. That's not an if, that's now a when. And it'll be the Israelis / the Jewish mafia doing it. So everybody understand and remember. And otherwise ignore their BS propaganda they'll generate through Hollywood. It'll be anybody else but, it'll be anybody else but my ours. Anyway, next, on the, I had several questions about the pistols that are out there. I mean, if you go through the inventory, here's the biggest problem you got is there's no real great quantity of 940 cal or anything that's standard that's up front on the list here when you go through the scrolls, guys. It's the other calibers I'm talking about that seem to be, readily available. And I would point out again, if you have a 7.63 Mauser / broom handle Mauser out there, or a Tokarev, in fact, the 7.63 Mauser will run through the Tokarev like a Singer sewing machine. Just a little heads up. Where do you think they got the cartridge from for the Russians? They stole it it's a Mauser round. They stole it from the, Mauser Works. Came from the Germans. That's where the broom handle, the reason the Tokarev exists in the chambering it's in is because of all the broom handle Mausers that the Russians bought and then produced themselves, both under contract and just by stealing. And there are many, 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 many of them that have been in service. So that's where that round came from. So if you have a Tokarev, the 7.63 Mauser is going to run through it like, feces through a goose. So if you're looking for Boxer Prime, non-corrosive, and if you're going to train with something, you train with this stuff so that you can then turn around and reload it and use it over and over and over again and save your military Berdan primed ammo for combat. And then you use everything else because you'll run out of ammunition real quick because you never have enough. It's that simple. There is one, no, I would not recommend some of these. Somebody said, Mark, there's some Fiachi there. Yeah, it's 20 rounds, and it's $1.04 a round for 20 rounds of whatever that is. And once $1 a round, kids, you do that only at the very end when everything else is off the shelf and you're into your last little bits and pieces and you're almost gone and it's time and everybody's, already heard about the first incident, say, in Schmidlappville. And, the government's going to come out and confiscate the guns to show all you gun owners that you can't resist the communists on the street. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? Well, that's when you might spend $1 a round because the dollar won't be worth much other than wipe your arse paper real quick if everybody goes to town on this. So you spend it where you can convert it into something useful. And ammunition is going to be most useful, okay? Just that simple. Another thing here real quick, also on batteries, I would remind everybody again, it's just like ammunition, batteries, and more batteries. A couple of the different name brand battery companies have gone thin. If you notice at the stores, the many card stock stations where they would have like the Copper Tops or some of the other name brand higher end batteries, better quality batteries, certainly they are. There is a great difference. There's a difference between Chevy and Cadillac. And what's interesting, though, is that there is a thinning going on, and I think part of that is the same problem with materials and also factory output, which in general, because of lack of a combination of funding and resources, the companies are stuttering. And the half of that is, what I said months ago, is that if the system is blocked at the docks, no matter what, they're only going to be able to prioritize once they come back online, which we're barely back online. They're going to start about shutting everything down again. Okay, that's fine. Well, we've never caught up with the loss. And if you'll notice, generally on all shelves, everything is thinning. Everything. I don't care what it is. You're seeing a case, a box, 10 of. You're not seeing a full shelf. Why? Because nobody has the product to put on the shelf to fill the shelf. Okay? So when somebody asked me about that, it was like, well, this is how it works. The machine it's like an inchworm, okay? And in this case, somebody cut the middle section out, and once it got cut off, what you've been seeing is the stuff that has been in the system and has gone through the main warehouses, out to the regional warehouses, out to the district warehouse, and finally it's now going out to, the customer base, retail, whatever it is. Take your pick of whatever, China Sport box. Now, they're still bringing junk in, make no mistake, and there's stuff moving all over the place, but busy does not mean productive. Busy does not mean productive, okay? Lots of motion, but it's a kinetic energy machine. So with regard to the higher end stuff, if you're looking for a better quality battery, again, I'm not saying go run out and buy them because they're never going to be anymore. I'm saying that if they do start jacking the price, you have to balance that out just like on the ammunition. I'm not going to spend $1 a round on 9mm. I'm not going to spend $1 a round, $1 a battery for something I was getting for 28 cents. Not yet. Now, when we get to the end, it's like, well, this is what's left, and for sure none of the other stuff is in the inventory or nothing is going to be in the inventory shortly, then yeah, we'll be doing that. And we'll be taking the wipe your arse paper, currency or digits, more likely digits. We'll hang on to the paper because people will accept the paper because it's physical. Nobody will be able to do anything to substitute for the credit card, window scraper, which is all your credit card's going to be worth after a real quick buzz by the controlled bankers, right? Keep it in your pocket. You might need to scrape the glass on your Humvee. What? Well, it's worthless otherwise. They shut all the banks down last night. What? What are you talking about? Oh, beep, 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 beep. Oh, shoot. So, again, it's a pecking order with regard to resource available. With batteries, why do I mention batteries? It's Communications Tuesday. Everything you think you're going to go CQ requires power. And all of them have, to a degree, battery backup in one form or another, or require batteries, which I really don't like, simply for onboard systems maintenance. Now, I try to avoid that. I go just far enough back with a lot of equipment. I don't need a battery on board. It's kind of like the computers where you need that little battery just for the, the buzz board. And eventually they die. I mean, they don't last forever. But when they do, that's one of the things people usually miscalculate. They don't think about it. There's a battery on board somewhere? Yeah, there's a little battery on board. Well, in this case, with a lot of the other equipment, try to avoid. Example, we were talking about this the other day. I do like power mics. They're fun. But remember that if you commit to, in your vehicle, for instance, a power mic, keyword, power mic. Yes, you get power. But in the process, you have to have a AA or a 9-volt battery on board. Some cases it takes 3, it depends on which mic it is and what year it was made. It can take 3 AAA batteries, take a couple of AA batteries, it can take a 9-volt battery, and those are batteries that you better be thinking about and better have on board your vehicle. Did you go through your inventory like I said last Tuesday? How many different little widget batteries do you have that you've committed to? Hell, we got batteries on our stinking rifles now. Which, by the way, those are the first things that are going to be coming off the guns or you're going to be prioritizing. If it was a choice between the laser and the light and my night vision, and they're all 1, 2, 3 batteries, I'm going to tell you which one isn't going to be used anymore. The flashlight's gone, okay? That's going to be gone. The laser, it's going to be gone. The night vision, well, that's a high priority, so guess what I'd be prioritizing my batteries for? Just that simple. Now, here's the other consideration. If you're smart, but not everybody did the same thing, I noticed that a lot of the operations and operators pushed everybody towards 1, 2, 3 batteries for their flashlights on their weapons, and 1, 2, 3 batteries for the laser. Well, again, pecking order. Which one do you think you'd really want more than anything? I'd probably really want that night vision working. So if all of a sudden we hit the wall, there's a finite quantity of whatever you got, you better be coming up with an SOP for light discipline, just like you would with anything else. Lasers aren't used or aren't on until they absolutely have to be, and if we have to, we'll dismount the batteries from the lasers and the white lights because we really can't afford to have our green screens go black, can we? Or your thermal, if you've got thermal out there. Which would you prioritize your power sources towards? Now, unless you've got some 1, 2, 3 battery factories you can pull out of your arse real quick, and I don't see that happening, then there's 2 things that we need to do. Number 1, obviously, you should stock up on batteries that match up with your equipment, which is what I've been saying on Communications Tuesdays forever. But most important is you might even want to look at, do I have an alternate power source for the other system so I'm not putting a burden on that specialized battery system that's just not going to be that common. I mean, there's trillions of AA batteries out there. There's trillions of AAA batteries out there. What do you think the actual count is on 1, 2, 3 batteries in this country?
Hey, Mark.
It's a lot lower. Go ahead. Who do we have, caller? Jump in there.
Yeah, Phyllis in Ohio. I have a question. For some things that are actually, I don't want to say non-essential, but that are not, that would be down down the pecking order that wouldn't necessarily be portable. Such as maybe you have a system, and the only thing you have is a little handheld with a microphone, like a duck box. That's all you have. Could you wire that up? If you have direct current, if you're like using solar panels or something, and you're someplace where that would be available to you, could you wire that up so you could use those instead of the batteries?
Well, yeah. Actually, what you would still use is a rechargeable battery and put it in circuit. You could use that. There's a couple of options, but if you have a 12-volt power source, a 12-volt solar system, for that matter, 12-volt onboard generators. A lot of little ones have little cranks. Some are 6, some are 12s. If they're little crank units, they would be sufficient to give you some power to bring the smaller CBs to bear. Your best bet would be to watch for, as I've said a million times, of course, car batteries that are, vehicles that are abandoned and destroyed or damaged. Motorcycle batteries are great. You can get little lawnmower batteries. I don't think we'll be doing as much lawn mowing, although we do want to keep the bugs down. But in a cinch, remember that your lawnmower could be running. You charge up the battery and, eliminate the pest control thing that you got to do. And then you have that battery charged up, and you hook with a couple of alligator clips on the end of your power connector. You hook that up to a lawnmower battery, and you'll run for however long that stays charged. In fact, if you're smart, you're not going to be constantly broadcasting. So you only use it for the time necessary within a window of activity, and then you shut it down. Now, if it was a battlefield situation where you need to monitor, then I would prioritize heavier batteries. Like I said, I would find a derelict car battery, truck battery, or assign it to another vehicle or machine or tractor, whatever it is that might be available. But there are a number of options. You could take, stack up. You can stack up any small battery, and you'll get some power for a period of time, so you could make that radio work. But in fact, if you think in advance, you can set up little power packs and have a number of multiple connectors so that you can hook everything up, plug it in, and run it. That would be another consideration. So, purely a matter of creativity, and there's a lot of things making power out there that are available. If you still had power off the wall, you run off the wall as long as you can. With a DC, AC to DC converter, and you could run a duck box as a base station. For that matter, most of the little base stations we set up aren't initially, or I should say house radios, are typically truck radios. They're not base station radios, not necessarily. And there's a lot of nice upper end, like we've said many times, if you're willing to understand the bells and whistles, there are some very nice, very powerful truck radios or, CB radios that are on the market that you can hook up for house use and run off the wall with a power supply, and you'd be fine. And in fact, there are clean power supplies that are very cheap, that are actually industrial, scientific. You have all these different scientific warehouses. I've noticed several of them. I just ordered one. I haven't got it in yet, but I ordered a bunch of stuff that was on sale and got them for pennies. But it's got the two screw type, one red, one black post, and it's a very simple, wall. It's not a wall wart, but it's has a simple conventional plug line, and you just take that wire, black to black, red to red, and plug it in. Wrap your wire around the post, screw the wire nuts down, and you've got power to that CB. Of course, first we make sure our antenna's hooked up, but that would be the quickest, easiest way to do it. And from the wall, for as long as we can, pull their juice and don't use your batteries. The next step is obviously battery resources and alternate crank or solar power. So, and I would have solar no matter what. Right now, there's so much solar in mobile solar. There's no reason not to have it, even if you just bought the cheapest stuff that's out there. Any of it would make a difference. All of it would help. All of it would be charging things up. Another thing, hold on, before we go, we're almost at the top here. Another thing I'll remind everybody, guys, you don't put them in a regular battery charger, but you can make up a real cheap, throwaway charger system using the dollar store, the dollar type yard lights, solar lights. Your alkali batteries will slowly get a trickle charge off those, and they'll work for about 5, 6, 7 days, even when they're powered completely down. when they're dead for whatever you were using them in, you take and put them in those little in a little charger you make up for one battery like that, and it can run something else for a period of time. Go ahead, caller, jump in there. We're almost to the top.
Yes, I have gotten multiple 6-volt batteries that I have found in those kids' riding toys.
Yes.
You see them thrown away on the sides of the road, and sometimes they even have a charger with them. But I have found a charger at like Goodwills and like thrift stores. But theirs are usually a 6-volt, and they will charge up quite a bit. They are made to be rechargeable.
Not only that, those can be found right now. I've noticed there's a wave of them coming in on Facebook Marketplace. So if you get a chance, check that out. Go to Facebook Marketplace and look in the freebies. I always tell everybody, go through the freebies. Doesn't cost you anything but a few minutes. You might find that treasure that finishes dotting the I or crossing the T. It's like the other day here, I got like 5 or 6, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I got another one, third one, actually, an aqua one I forgot about. So I have 5, but they're all the same. Two larger, 2 small, 3 smaller. They're all the same water jugs. They were, what was the price? Free. Electrical fixtures, tent stakes. Got another free tent the other day. It's going to go into another kit for someone. Sleeping bags. All that stuff can be found like that, guys. And batteries and battery supplies, alternate supply sources. There's all kinds of tech out there. And in fact, the China Sport junk is piled up like cordwood. Now, how much is here in the U.S.? Well, we don't know for sure because, like I said, they put the kibosh to that here for quite some time. And now playing catch up, if it ever gets here, it probably is not going to happen. I can see that being cut off. So, anybody else? All right, very good. And for everybody here, too, remember Liberty Tree Radio on YouTube. Liberty Tree Radio on YouTube. Liberty Tree Radio on YouTube. We have a live feed. We probably heard that straw being used with the ice water, and it probably went down and recorded very cleanly, I think. Is that what I heard? Sometimes you should use the mute. But anyway... As it is, we are at the top. For everybody out there, guys, it is a warm, muggy August day. It is still lush and green. It is not brown. We do not have a fire hazard in Michigan. It is lush and green and muggy. So if you're out and about, remember the bugaboos, the critter skitters will be out there. And there are a bunch of them. So pay attention to your environment. Make sure you know who's who in the zoo and where where all of the people are that you're going to be using for friendlies for the mission, and you can carry on that way. So, other than that, last but not least, and this has to do with Fair Radio, guys. We've had a lot of questions about certain technologies or older equipment. If you have something you're looking for and you can't find it, fairradio.com, fairradio.com, F-A-I-R, fairradio.com, out of Lima, Ohio, although you could call it Lima, but take your pick, tomato on that one, Lima, Ohio, located right in a fork in the highway there, and that is, again, Fair Radio. They've got military tech, old stuff if you're looking for it. They've got a number of pieces of equipment of different types and sizes available. So whatever it is that you see that might float your boat, you might want to think about, snagging and tagging and running with those. I've also noticed that they've got a bunch of Canadian stuff in again. They got a connection there. I don't know what it is, but they got a good supply chain from the surplus systems out of Canada, which have a lot of American counterpart radio systems. Because of that, the parts are a little cheaper, and they're fully integratable, and the prices are, like I said, a lot better all the way around. So if you're looking at it, now take a look at that Canadian version first. If you were trying to play Vietnam reenactment, you probably want the original because somebody will nix you for something. Why I'd be worried about that, I don't know. But if you are looking at usefulness, in other words, you're looking for application and real-time, work, then the can head stuff is made typically in America. If it's a Canadian counterpart, it was still made by an American company with a factory in Canada back in the day. Okay, so that makes it pretty straightforward. Anyway, we should be hearing the music. We are at the top. Oh, a little past. For everybody out there, guys, if you can, donate to Liberty Tree Radio. Go to www.libertytreeradio.4mg.com and go to the donate keys. God bless our republic.
Death to the New World Order.
We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire's on the run.
And we're on the march both day and night.
Hoorah. Kick them a slap, speed them down hard, don't let them get back up, and they try to get up. Well, then you didn't do it. You didn't do it right. Anyway, we will be back in a few minutes. Second hour of the Intel Report coming up. It is Tuesday.
That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area, because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
freedoms we secured for you, we'd hoped you'd always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun. Permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent. Although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate. And your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper, so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm, so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm. And keep our country deep in debt. Put men of God in jail. Harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors, so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores, and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear, be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand. Defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now, as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep, and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you. God bless this republic.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Kernke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, southwest, east, west, and north. Ladies and gentlemen, you were listening to us on Libertytreeradio.4mg.com, Liberty Tree Radio on YouTube, and we are on AM and FM micro stations, AM and FM conventional stations, CB base stations, and Ultra-Net, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. It is Communications Tuesday. It is 6:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is the 11th of August. It is the 12th year of open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K. 2020 Old Earth Calendar, 2020 Year of Battle, Year of Conflict, the Dance of Swords. Congratulations. And again, we shall sing as we slay. So, a couple things real quick here. One more time, that was classic firearms for the 7mm ammunition. Go take a look at the ammunition scroll. There's not that much there. certainly not in centerfire. They kind of diced it up by putting some shot shell in between the centerfire, or otherwise, centerfire rifle and pistol. Or otherwise, the first page would be not quite full of what little they have, and they included blank ammunition. Oh boy, we got blank 9mm. Yeah, well, that's nice, but it doesn't serve any of our purposes. Anyway, other stuff going on. If you go over to centerfire systems, and by the way, everybody's got they've got sales they're trying to offer. So if you go over to centerfire systems right now and pay attention to their whatever goodie pack deals they have, they always have the deal of the day thing, kind of like what Classic has been doing for quite some time. In this case, it's their e-deals. And whether or not they're worthwhile, you got to do the math on that, okay? They've got complete polymer, manufactured from premium polymer, light and stronger than aluminum. These are AR-15E3 Gen 2 AR-15 complete lower receivers for $130. That's half the gun. In fact, this is complete. Buffer, trigger group, everything is now, it is an FFL item. That's the first thing. It's a FFL, yep. It may be or may not be. I don't see it whether or not it's plumb crazy, but the plumb crazy crew are the ones who cranked out the best price here for the longest time. Yeah, I don't see it. Doesn't tell me any more than I've already got on it. Let's see what we can find out here. Let me get another pull-up on another direction here. Polymer buffer tube, polymer everything, but it does not say, forgive me, I don't see the manufacturer. It's, okay, your best bet, I'm not going to do it on the air, go to centerfiresystems.com. And it's the E3 Arms LLC. Well, there we go. That's the company right there. E3 Arms LLC, Limited Liability Corporation. And that's AR-15E3, $130 for the complete lower, all polymer. That includes the buffer tube, etc. So, again, lightweight, you can knock a gun down to 5 pounds. If you go with an M4 barrel on the gun with this package, 5 pounds. Yes. You can build a 5-pound gun without any problem at all. And just don't add a bunch of other BS doodads. If you're looking to make a really light, superweight aircraft gun, for instance, something to put in the, with a pilot, that's optimal. Every pound you shave off is less fuel the pilot uses to move junk. Remember, we're beating the air into submission, and, you're trying to glide on a bubble. Well, it takes fuel to do that. And the less fuel you use, the happier you'll be. Of course, the lighter the weapon, the more ammunition you can carry. Ah, yes, that's one of the other solutions. Now, I've also noticed with a lot of these different scrolls, AR-15 mags still appear to be a problem. I will remind you again, if you go over to gunpartscorp.com, www.gunpartscorp.com, www.gunpartscorp.com. When you get over there to Gun Parts Corp, if you run through the scroll over in the deals, you'll see where it says deals, and you tap that, go to closeouts, and I believe it's page 16 or 17. Now, I could be wrong on that, but whatever, it's closer to the end. They have 10 of the aluminum, aluminum Bushmaster, metal, Bushmaster magazines for $100. Now, I'm looking at the other prices out there, and again, if you're looking for metal mags, there's an interest right now over the polymer. It's a flavor choice. I have everything. I've got polymer, I've got aluminum, I've got steel, I've even got stainless. I mean, come on. So it's purely a flavor change of the day, whatever was in vogue for the moment for the best price. All of them work. Again, if you look at it this way, for a lot of your kits, it's going to be shoot and drop. If you have them in your breakout kits, that's what they're designed to do. You fire them up, 30 rounds. After that, you drop it. If you survive, you recover it. If you don't survive, you don't care. So why would you care? Okay, so again, this is one of those situations where if you're looking for Bushmaster, they're not cheap mags, actually very well built. And these are still in the bubble card system, so they were, set up obviously for regular retail manufacturer sales. and it always takes forever to get to the page I want to get to, which is what I'm doing. I'm buying time. Well, there we go. I think we should be just about there. Anyway, they do list it in 2 different locations. You can do an individual search, but I like confirming it's over in the clearance section. That way I know for sure I got it right. And if not, you guys got it right, walked through and bought them all. Oh, that might have happened. If somebody saw where these were, well, guess what? The world has changed price-wise on those. So, well, we'll find out. We're going to have to do a search through the whole of the system there. Could have been shuffled somewhere else into the page. I don't think so. But, again, take the time and look to see what they do have listed, because if they're available, they are the best price for the Bushmaster mags in the country that I know of. Now, last but not least, before I leave gun parts, since I ran over there, I waddled over here. Magazine, 8mm, 10-round, new, GPC manufacturer, patterned original for the FN49. If you have a 7mm and you need a mag for it, the 8mm mag should work without any problem. The only difference is the dimension of the projectile. A 7x5.7 or 7.92, 8mm, by 5.7. Key word, or key letters there, numbers, 5.7, 5.7. They're both the same length. The case is also the same dimension other than the projectile. So the 8mm magazine for the FN will work on your 7mm if you need one, because maybe somebody lost it for you or something happened, it got busted up. For $24.05, it's a good price. These are virtual brand new manufacturer with the follower and the spring. And that's over at, again, gunpartscorp.com. But if you have one of those 7mm FNs that needs a magazine because you picked it up because you couldn't pass up the price, and then you found out maybe I can't find mags, try the 8mm in it. You'd be amazed. The 8mm magazine, there is no difference in the dimension. They're both the same length. They're both 5.7. Yeah, okay. Anyway, just keeps it easier with the numbers, math. Another thing here real quick is wire. Now, I can't stress this enough. I've run into some really great deals with people putting wire to the curbside. The most important wire I've been running into, although I'll take any copper wire and get my hands on, but is 3-strand or 2-strand telephone line. Got a couple of partial spools. I'd say there's probably 400 yards left on the one spool. It's a 500-yard spool, and it was out by the road. I got it with a bunch of freebie stuff out of Milan, Michigan here. It was out of Facebook Marketplace. Now, the other electrical stuff I went there for, gone. Somebody saw some of that equipment and said, oh, that's got to be mine, and rightly so, because there was probably $3,000 or $4,000 worth of radio equipment there. But I did get a number of items, and the stuff that was rack-mounted, that was gone. But the items I did get were worth picking up. And, again, any spools, big or small, of copper wire, grab them. There are 2 things they can be used for. Remember, if all else fails, how about electrical, what they were intended? But in addition to that, remember, if we're doing field telephone, if you have to do a field telephone, guys, you could use Ronex. I mean, it's kind of hard to deploy. But if you were just going to run a line, and you know, got to remember, bigger wire, more resistance. That's the only other thing you got to take into consideration. But if you're going to run a field telephone line, any of these other lines will do to get the job done. Any of these other wires. In fact, copper is normally not what is being used anymore. Steel is more common. But if you could run into copper wire and run it for, say, static field phone use, because you're not going to move it, and you'll abandon it if you have to DD the AO if you have a retreat. But setting up your own phone net inside your area of operation is very easy. But you need wire, so just keep in mind, don't get rid of any. In fact, if you see it, keep collecting it. And I would point out, at the very least, it's copper. Copper is money, money, okay, Mooney. So don't get rid of the copper wire and collect whatever you can. But 400 or 500-foot spools, actually you'll also find it in deals with estate sales, which we have. I just missed out on a few. But that happens, and I'm not going to cry. Whoever got it first. And a lot of people I've been running into at the estate sales are pretty much people of like mind anyway, which is kind of cool. So we're, finding out that other people are basically on the same track we are with machinery, with wiring, radio, take your pick, whatever it is. Next, over at Coleman's, and I guess I'm going to mention this again because everybody's been looking for alternate communications, and actually these are not a bad price, but I'm bringing this up because it's also, a lot of people are asking about military radios. The AMPRC 125s, or forgive me, the ANGRC 125, which is a Jeep-mounted radio, used to be cheap. Nobody wanted them. Now we got Vietnam reenactment, which I mentioned in the last hour. Because of that, all this Vietnam-era stuff, even though it was used after Vietnam quite extensively, and in fact, really, the government didn't spend money on anything if they could help it. The ANGRC 125s are right through the roof. That's a vehicle-mounted radio. Now, the ANPRC 25s, which you can still find, have about doubled or tripled in price because of the interest. Now, that's a good and bad thing, because what's happened is the aficionados, the new experts, not to be confused with the old experts, the new experts on all of this must have everything perfect. The bad thing is price. The good thing is anything and everything that's in the woodwork has been pulled out or is being pulled out and showing up. And so we're ending up with a lot of inventory that if you're willing to take field grade, which we are always, because they want pristine. They got to have it so it looks like it just came out of the box. And because of that, which I think is always rather funny, the used stuff the Star Wars lived in is much more affordable, and as I pointed out also earlier in the first hour, the Canadian equipment has been popping in there. Well, the Canadian sometimes has a little off color. It's been painted later after the war because the can heads have used a bunch of this stuff right up until recently, and might even end up tan. Okay, so it actually got 3, 4, 5 different service colors on it based upon its area of operation. So the ANPRC 25s, the ANPRC 77s, they're running premium right now, but because of the premium prices for pristine, field grade is like, I live with it, but I can't stand it because I'm going to have perfect. It's like people collecting Cadillac or Corvette or Mercedes parts, that kind of thing. The one nice thing about this is, though, the other radios from the era, to a degree, have been ignored. Now, I don't know how long that's going to last, although the Vietnam thing has been going for a while. It's not like it's a brand new spring chicken thing. But if they were really trying to look official, they'd be going after the Warsaw Pact communications, because that's a lot of what was donated to the Vietnamese, Viet Cong or the Vietnamese, or to their counterparts in Cambodia and Laos. And the radio I'm going to point out here at Coleman's, which, by the way, I'm not worried about, like I told you, I'm not worried about being a Vietnam reenactor. These radios work. They've been around for quite some time. Oh, come on. Of course, everything acts up when you want to do that, except, let's see. So anyway, there we go. Well, as it is, the radio, which, by the way, now all of a sudden I'm having a problem. Of course, it's on the air. I had it queued up beforehand. One of the things about the unit, it is located in their, if you look for check surplus, it is a completely boxed radio, onboard headset, handsets, fixed antenna, flexible jungle antenna, rechargeable batteries, which I do not know, and we've had several questions about this, with regard to the rechargeable batteries for the unit, whether or not the batteries are actually still serviceable. Well, if they're NICAD, they probably, and I don't know, again, this is a mix with regard to what the Eastern Bloc was using, And whatever they could steal from us, they then simply reproduced and copied. You know that, right, guys? What's interesting is that when they built this unit, NICAD was, of course, on the upswing. And so I could pretty well assume that it's either NICAD or Tesla batteries. And I don't know which they used because we've never gotten a chance to, there was a translation. I haven't gone through the manual to read exactly. Now, the ones that we have had, and these are the RF-10 radios, we bought them when they first came in. These things have been passed around to different surplus companies. I think there's the latest wave that came in, $150 a system, a set. It's only for one. Now, I won't say when I set, I mean radio set, as in a radio. But this is, it comes with the shoulder bag, comes with all the accoutrements, everything to hook everything up, antenna line, you name it, it's there. And this unit is a very compact radio. Now, it's simple. In fact, as I've pointed out before, if you look at it and you think about a CB radio off the shelf in 1975 or 1980, and you look at this unit and you go, wow, that's not that hard to understand. Well, they did that intentionally. Again, I've told you before, don't get it too complicated because mistakes will be made in combat that are lethal. You can be talking to dead airspace. Now, these things work on 44.000 to 53.975 megahertz. There's 400 channels total. And, again, you need to get two of them. You can't buy just one. Well, I guess you could listen to see who's out there. But with the testing we've done, they typically work at what are the applied ranges. You can easily pull 10, 12 miles out of these things. Now, remember that these are a military handset system. Same thing you'd find any other RO radio operator using, but they're not designed to talk to Bolivia. They were designed to stay and talk within the unit. And that's one of the most common mistakes made is, I should have a 100-mile range. It's like, well, you can actually squeak more range out of them. Why do you think they put the fixed wire antennas in there? But most of the time, I don't want to talk to Bolivia, nor do I want Bolivia to hear me. This is the difference between, using a CB radio for fun and using all of your radio operational radio equipment for real military/fighting application. You're going to minimize signal transmissions. You're going to do what you can to create deception. You're going to bounce signal off other objects. You're going to do a number of things that are designed to minimize your footprint so that you are not as much of a bullet magnet right away or perhaps missed. Remember, there's a lot of other battle chatter and noise going on out there in a field situation. Now, these have a handset. They also have, there's an entire inventory listing. They have the, looking to see, wait a minute, they've got another batch in. Well, it's still in the styrofoam box. It does have the handset. It should have the ear set and mic also, but that varies because we've seen two versions, and this might have been a restock, so I'll find out more. Anyway, first of all, I've got to say thank you to Lucy for passing on and giving me a heads up on this, too, because they were out for a bit, and looks like they got the last batch in, or have a batch in right now, and it's the same radio. There is no difference, the equipment technology-wise. Again, it's $150 a set for one radio, but it's completely compartmentalized. Now, guys, use the styrofoam packing. Use the system they came up with religiously. Just remember that the system worked to the point where for many years these have been in service, and they kept everything functional, and it worked. And if it works, why, you don't need to fix it. There's no need to change for the time being. One of the advantages here, too, you can do a quick radio test with the system, box it all back up, and two of these could be pre-deployed downrange at your retreat or a cache, whatever you're going to do, for operations in the future. Just something else to think about, or at least for, again, signal communications within the area of control of a retreat or whatever you might build. Okay? So, next, I wanted to touch on that. And again, somebody, as you always, somebody missed it. Colemans.com, 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 Colemans.com. it's really the only radio equipment they have, radio system. They do have civil defense technology, some of it, but the big thing, that is the radio that they're carrying. And it's the only one of its kind. They do surplus, but they don't do much of that. They do generators at Coleman's. And this is the Czech Military RF-10. It would be kind of funny to see somebody pop in with these for the Vietnam-era reenactors, only because there were Czechs on the ground, there were Poles on the ground in Vietnam, there were certainly Russians. And all the equipment that was brought in for experimental use, they did the same thing on their side that we did on our side, testing our weapon systems. Yeah, big proving ground. Very lethal proving ground, okay? So, and again, countermeasures and electronic countermeasures, all that garbage was deployed too. Wild weasels and a whole lot more you're not even supposed to think about. So, again, if somebody's asking if there's a handheld version, these things are pretty small. They're actually like they're more like a mine bag phone. They are not that big. They're half the size of an ANPRC-10 in terms of height, but basic width and thickness dimension about comparable to an ANPRC-10 U.S. military radio. However, they are in a bag phone type configuration is really what they remind me of. And we have a lot of the old bag phone Motorola's. They're radios, but they call them bag phones. And the bag phone systems that were out there, or mine phone systems are out there, cheap for a period of time. Not very large, designed to be carried in a shoulder strap, with a shoulder strap over the shoulder or around the neck, however you wanted to do it. And in many cases, those had a little storage point for even the handset. In this case, this is typical for like an ANPRC 8, 9, 10, 25, 77, etc. And the handset is similar, but not quite the same. So you recognize all the features on the items, but you can see the difference very quickly if you've had any time in service. Or even if you haven't, you've just been watching movies and paying attention to history, okay? There's a lot of cool stuff out there that's useful. This is one of them. Again, if you had to change out the batteries, yes, you can do it with any number of different battery companies that are out there. We've got one over on Jackson Road here near Ann Arbor, Michigan, and they can completely rebuild the battery pack to whatever you want. That would be your first option. You even had solar. I would even go so far as to say, as nicely compact as this kit is, it would not be a big deal to add solar to your charging system. And that would be neat. As it is, there's hand crank, solar, whatever you want to do. But I would add as much as I could. That would just be me if I were building up a whole series of these. And we do have some. Like I said, I haven't really picked up any more, and I do not know how many they have, okay? That's the thing. I haven't called to check to see what the quantity is left in service there. I don't know how many other companies have these. All right, I'll tell you what. If we have Ed there, music request, I'm going to get one of them in. It's been a while. I think we're all squared away, so our music system should be working. I know our systems are working here, and they're clean and green right now. So, Chris Ree, Highway to Hell, the shorter version. We don't need the commentary. Well, I won't say the commentary, but the dialogue, the beginning opening dialogue. Mono. There's a shorter version. If we can do that, that would really be great. If we have to do the long version, that would be fine. Kind of like in Braveheart. Alive, dead, makes no difference. Live version, long. Well, no, live I don't want. Studio version, because it's easier to understand. And again, there's a bunch of music out there right now for everybody that's listening that we definitely want to take advantage of. And use. I give music ideas out to everybody all the time, because at least music will catch your ear. And when you ask somebody, you ever heard this? They go, well, no. It's like, well, yes. Then you need to listen to this and this. Here we go. We're on the highway. I wonder where it's going.
Well, I'm standing by a river, but the water doesn't flow. It boils with every poison you can think of. And I'm underneath the streetlight, but the light of joy I know is scared beyond belief, way down in the shadows. And the perverted fear of violence chokes the smile on every face. And common sense is ringing out the bell. This ain't no technological breakdown. Oh no, this is the road to hell. And all the roads jam up with credit, and there's nothing you can do. It's all just bits of paper flying away from you. Oh, look out, world, take a good look. What goes down here? You must learn this lesson fast and learn it well. This ain't no upwardly mobile freeway. Oh no, this is the road. This is the road. This is the road to hell.
All right. Thank you, Edward. And again, for everybody out there, Chris Ree and Highway to Hell. And the long version is cool also because the dialogue leading up to the kickoff on the song. Yeah, what in the hell are you doing here? Well, hey, this is the road to hell. And they're dragging us there. They're trying to take us down, but we're going to stop that. We are going to end up having to fight about a good 7 to 10 year war in the process. Get it done. Congratulations. Get over it, get on with the mission. Remember, focus on organizing, arming, equipping, and training as militia. Establish a 510 program in your area of operation. Set up transportation, communication, and medical units now. You don't wait till later. You can do some work later, but you want to have the basics in place now. And in addition to that, let's not forget that with transportation comes the logistics train, both for delivery, but we need a logistic support system just to keep the vehicles running. So there is no such thing as a worn-out tire until it's got a chunk in it the size of your fist. Otherwise, if it'll hold air, skin, or tread, it's going to be kept in service. That's just how it works. Another thing was brought up earlier by Phyllis is batteries, vehicle batteries. The two items that are the most Of greatest concern for any transportation unit are both the extreme perishables by one by road hazard and the other one, well, actually by road hazard too, but more commonly just age and abuse. And the first is tires, the second are batteries. So much so that in the military, with any, I don't know what their fumble screw operation is now. They may completely have mucked up that program. But traditionally, we have people who want to do one job, managing batteries, and another one managing tires. Usually they're standing side by side, and they have a rating system. They have rebuild technology. They have repair technology. They're initializing rechargeable batteries that can be resurrected. There's all kinds of different techniques. Some are employed, some are not at this time, but it depends on what the battery system is. Most all your vehicles, lead acid is the norm, and because of that, that's what they're working with. So the options are quite, vast now in terms of all the other technology. You really, really have to pay attention to what's coming out of the back end of a radio or what's being pulled out of the, even out of a weapon system. There's 5 generations of really healthy rechargeable batteries out there, and each one has its unique issues with regard to recharging and, for instance, what is its lifespan for charge? How deep can you go with a discharge? If you go really deep, does it harm the battery or does it create issues? Does it take longer to recharge, et cetera, et cetera? These are all things, especially communications, you have to know about. The other thing is that with, for instance, the Chinese, we're going to be running into the Chinese and the Israelis working with the Chinese against America. The Israelis will betray us. No, they can't betray us if they were never with us, but let's just put it this way. They are already providing all of the technology they can, and the Chinese have the wherewithal to crank out whatever they want. So they're going to be putting together a lot of the equipment you're going to see in the hands of the second tier, the second wave in the fight against the globalists. And because of that, you should be very familiar with all the Chinese military signal communications that's out there. Go to YouTube, start punching in stuff on military radios. Start looking at what some of the radio geeks are playing with right now. What are they doing with the equipment they've got? There is a lot of cool stuff out there. There's also a lot of surplus out there. There is pretty much everything up till the most recent, I would say, or the more classified, restricted. Most everything is out there. Now, it is specialized encryption and specialized hop jump technology and all the other, spook and kook stealth stuff. No, you're not going to see that in force out yet. But you'd be amazed at how much you can run into from overseas, from Euro equipment, or that you will see in Chinese equipment that you aren't allowed to look at here, but it's already on their public equipment there. This is like years ago, Australian Citizens Band radio. Okay, they can talk back and forth without any worrying about keying over each other because they had a high-low frequency transceiver combination way before anything. We had this in the United States, and it was norm for Australia. I have about 9 of those radios. I had 7 that were given to me by one of our friends down in Columbus that were Australian CBs, and it's like the first time everybody used them, they couldn't figure out why. Was this radio broken or something? Why? Well, we're talking like we're on a telephone. And it's like, well, okay, well, this is why. And in fact, the donor had to sit down with the people that I put the radios with, I established these radios with in a small pod, because they had to rethink how they were using the radios. Now, you still should have good radio, high-low, or I should say up-down etiquette. In other words, when somebody else is talking, you're quiet. But people have a tendency to get in intense situations or overriding or interrupting, in one form or another by need, not just by attitude. Especially when you're dealing with any number of different possible life-death situations. So something to think about there. You've got to study the other equipment. I know it's another homework assignment from Uncle Mark, and Mark, you're giving too much to do as it is. No, not really. This is all stuff that traditionally a U.S. soldier would be working into if he was serious about the trade. And if you're an RO, remember, you always see in the movies, I can handle any of this Russian stuff or the Chinese stuff, or I can run anything. Well, guess what? To bring you up to speed so you can run anything would be a good idea to take a look at what all is out there that's available over the counter that you can do in the way of information collection. And the nice thing about videos is, again, it's a audio-visual tutorial. You're absorbing, and you can even, if you have a model of something that you see there, maybe you pick something up and you look for it, you find it, sit down with it and watch to see how they're using the equipment, pay attention to how it's hooked up, and see if you've done everything right, or maybe you've done something differently that may work better. You haven't necessarily done something wrong. Always remember that. You may actually just have a really good idea how to make it work, and you've come up with a better idea. That happens despite what you would think. Everybody knows how to do this. Like let me give you an example. The Sten submachine gun should have been built in the Civil War. Why didn't somebody think of it? You know what I mean? Seriously. Well, because nobody thought about it. Nobody put the parts together in their mind. Amazingly enough, you might be looking at it from a very different direction the average person does. It's in the interest theater of technology. And so you actually do come up with a good idea. Don't ever be embarrassed to ask a question. And I'm not going to ridicule you. Not much, anyway. But, no, I'm not going to ridicule you ever. But in this case, remember, the technology is actually theory / application is a dartboard with a lot of the technology tied into radio. So check it out, because those RF10s and the check radios I was talking about, there's a couple of videos, more than a few out there, on using the equipment so you could actually see how it's being put into service, how it works, how to make it function. And also, again, a lot of the other radios that I mentioned before, I'm sure there's tons of garbage out there on the PRC 77. I mean, come on. It's overlap ad nauseum, especially where everybody, that's the cat's meow, man. He's got a PRC 77, a real one, man. Dude, yeah, I mean, for my Vietnam reenactment thing. So, by the way, the other thing, too, I will remind you of something we mentioned, is rack-mounted or larger vehicle fixture radios. There's tons of that stuff out there. I mentioned the ANGRC 125 because that's kind of the mate to the 77, the PRC 8910s, and the 25s for Vietnam. Wasn't the most common, but there were a ton of them out there, and a lot of people operated them at one time or another, and then some of them bought them as surplus and are operating them right now, as you'll see if you look around. It's out there in the market. Again, with regard to all of this equipment, you need antennas, and with antennas, with their possible height. Now, there's a number of different kits. There's all kinds of stuff out there you can improvise, adapt, and overcome. But if you're doing a base station at home, or you're doing radio equipment at home, banana masts, I've mentioned many times, there were 3 of them free over the weekend here in our area. All you do is Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, and you punch in CB radio antennas or punch in radio antenna masts. Take your pick and look to see what pops up. You will find disassembled tri-masts that are, fairly big. You will find smaller one-piece banana masts. They call them a banana mast because they're kind of squeezed at both ends. And they're one piece, just one big long piece of, 3 pieces of conduit with crossbars, welded in. And at the top and bottom, it comes to a pyramid. There's a circular piece of pipe there welded in, so you could put a piece of stock in the ground, take the antenna frame and put it right in over the pipe, slide it in there, put some guy wires on it. A lot of the banana masts are designed, though, if you do them right, to freestand. Most important is, again, understand that they're susceptible to weather issues. Things can happen, so guy wires are not a bad thing. Just don't go crazy with it. But I usually cement them in. I cement them in with about 3 feet by 3 feet by 4 feet worth of cement, and then I don't have to worry about them falling over. Of course, I also lose about 2 feet worth of the mast, but I'm going to put a pipe on the other end, so I don't care. If you're going to put up a station at the house or something at the retreat, consider this: don't paint it silver. Look at the tree lines in the area that you're in. Try to match up the color of the tree bark. That's the color you want to paint the antenna. You want to paint the mast. You want to paint it the same color as the tree line. So when somebody's looking across at it, it's going to look like the rest of the forest out there in the winter or in the summer. Don't paint it green. Look for gray-green. Look at the color of the tree bark in your area. That's what you want to paint the equipment like that you're going to leave in place. That way, when the leaves are gone, it still blends in. When the leaves are there, you got lots of branch and material showing, it still blends in. And the other things can happen. So, again, radios, go over to YouTube if you want to for that. That would be another solution. Also on the handhelds, because a lot of people, I know everybody with a VHF and UHF, Belfions, are going, do you have to have a college degree to operate this thing? And it's like, no, but they are a step-by-step widget that does require patience, and that is the problem. And one of the other things about programmable radios when they're the size of the Belfions is the tiny little keypad and the large fingers that make up the average person. A stylus is something you should invest in. And I'm very serious about this. I assume that a lot of these guys out there have learned to actually tape them to their fingers because they've not been accommodating the average human-sized digit with most of the keypads that are out there. No matter what company is and how big they try to make them, they're usually still fairly small. Making a mistake during a combat situation is very, very costly. Calling for support, calling to be picked up, or calling for medical evac, whatever it is you're doing, getting it right the first time means that you've saved the seconds or a minute that it might take to rehook or connect where you were supposed to be. So you want to use a stylus, and when you're programming, go slow, but pay attention because some of the stuff has a time retard onboard monitor, and it will just literally erase everything you've been working on and start from scratch. I know it pisses a lot of people off, and rightly so. But it depends on the radio and the unit, which company made them. I understand that we've had this problem with some of the Kenwoods, the more recent ones that were Chinese-made, but that means probably they're doing nothing but modeling on the Belfian radio systems. I have not heard of that being an issue, but it's something that does pop up. So in other words, they're almost putting you on like a timer. Come on, you got to work faster. Work fast. Everything's gone. Oh, man. So you really don't want to run into that in any situation if you can help it. Now, this is why I do believe in cruder radio work and equipment for the very reason I just mentioned. But also, a little bulky and oversized is always a hell of a lot better than so tiny I can barely make out the screen and my fingers are touching two keypads at once. Okay? That is a problem. So when I mention little styluses, you can go over to Dollar Tree, you can go to a number of different places. You can make one up in the field. You can use a pencil with an eraser if you can find one, and use that little rubber pad there as your puncher, and that way you're fixed on the object surface, and it's more likely you'll get the job done right. Okay? I know that even when you do have that, it's the old pucker factor going up in under fire or in battlefield conditions means you can still make plenty of mistakes, even if you do have all the right tools or try to make it work right. But we're just trying to tighten things up a little bit. We can't do it all, but we'll tighten it up the best we can, and I think it'll work fine for you. Again, put spares into your kits. If you're going to use or make your own, again, you can use pencils. Pencils are a good choice because they are like a dual-purpose item. You get some writing utensils so that you can send messages by courier when your radio fails and your batteries are out and signal communications are being jammed by everybody. Well, at least half of what you carried, well, no, not half, a small part of what you carried, a very small part of what I carried, was something I can actually use for communications when everything else is down. That's right, the pencil did come in handy, and the little pad of paper, too, the one I put in all the different pockets in my field gear, or I should say in my uniform, so it's where I can find it. Another thing there real quick, small electrical kits to go with your radio. We used to, the four-way screwdriver, nobody knew what the hell they were. I had one of those before anybody did, only because you saw them overseas, and it was the Taiwanese that had them. Taiwan made them. And everybody goes, what the hell is that? I said, well, it's real easy. You've got a flat blade and a Phillips on each of these inserts, and there's a tube in the middle. The tube has, there's a small size screwdriver set and a large-size screwdriver set, Phillips and flat blade. And you flip the one, and you can change it from Phillips to straight. You do the other end, you can flip it from Phillips to straight. But here's what's really neat. They were smart. The two sizes of the hex that create the aggressive side needed so you can use it as a screwdriver also created two nut drivers for moving small electrical component lockdowns, things like that, turning them faster, real easy as a matter of fact. So, yeah, it was reality 6 tools in one. Well, 4-way, a wire cutter, set of conventional military barbed wire cutters would be a real good idea. And in addition to that, a small China Sport socket set. Not anything bigger than a 1/4-inch drive is necessary for most of what you're doing. But if you're going to disassemble things, example, or if I'm going to make an antenna for my piece of equipment, the regular wire cutters don't always work. And remember, as I've told you many times, you can use steel. So if you have those barbed wire cutters or cable cutters, a little set of little mini bolt cutters with you, or dikes, you're going to be able to cut the wire that you need and then make an improvised field antenna from steel wire or fencing, whatever you have available. Remember, if you have a little toolkit, don't forget a hammer too, by the way. I'll tell you what I like right now is it's great in the toolkit. Doesn't have to be very big. They have these little ball peen and claw hammers that are over at Harbor Freight. They're gray. They're only about 6 inches tall. They're great for having a fistful of weapon. And a ball peen hammer gives you something with some steel on the end of it, but you grip it just like you would a pistol grip. The grip itself isn't very big, but that's great in a little toolkit like that for fabricating antennas and such. You might have to tap something in. You might have to tap something out. You might have, in fact, it wouldn't hurt to have a couple pieces of steel stock to use as pin drivers, because you never know what you're going to run into. Little things you can add to the kit are personal choice. One thing I like to add, zip ties and bread ties. You can build everything with zip ties and bread ties, and that's why you never throw bread ties away. Just keep putting them in a little container. Later on, put them in a little Ziploc bag or put them in a little medicine bottle, stack them up, put them side by side. You can have a whole bunch of them in there. Remember, when you use them, you're probably not going to recover them, so they're one-way items. What do I use the bread ties for? Same thing you use a zip tie for, point-to-point fasteners. It depends on what it is I'm doing. Do I want plastic or can I use metal? Now, the metal is covered. That little piece of wire for the bread tie is covered with plastic, but it is awfully handy. Another thing, real corks out of cork bottles. A couple of those in the kit are a really good idea. In addition, obviously, a few extra Ziploc bags, little tiny snack size or whatever. Put those in the kit. So you keep adding as you realize, I need a little bit of something to work for a drill bit. I need to bore a hole in something. Well, there again, you've got a drill bit and a small bit holder. They're manual. They're China Sport. They're around about $1 a piece. And they're not real fancy, and they're not real great, but they'll cut through plastic pipe just fine, PVC, and they'll go through a piece of cheap China Sport pine board just fine too, or for that matter, American pine board. Really doesn't matter.
Duct tape.
It allows you, duct tape is another one, electrical. The tapes are all standard. Duct tape and electrical tape. But when you want that little drill, it's because you're improvising an insulator. And rather than trying to beat a hole through something, which never works right, and something chips or something breaks or whatever, having a little tiny set of 1/8-inch drill bits that are decent, or even cheap, and a little drill bit holder. Now, you've seen these; they're manuals, not a drill. Well, it is a drill, but it's on a card. They usually are $1. You'll find them even at the dollar store. And if you do find them in your dollar store, like Dollar Tree, grab a couple, put them in your portable kit. Put them in that little kit that goes with your radio operator, whoever your RO is, both of your ROs, because you got to have two radios. One's talking, the other one's listening, and back and forth. Okay. Anyway, talk about back and forth. We're at the top of the hour. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. You notice a lot of things I mentioned weren't store-bought, right? They don't need to be. We can do without. God bless our republic. Yes, to the New World Order. We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire's on the run. We're in the march. I'm going to get out of the way. Edward taking over. Communications Tuesday. We'll be back at 8 o'clock. But Liberty Tree Radio carries on right now. God bless. Bye-bye.